Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hobby Lodge, and this time I'll be talking about my top 5 board games of 2022. Now this is either the third of these you've seen, or the one in the middle, or the first one, but there are 3 of these videos where I've gone over my top 5s. I've done my top 5 video games, my top 5 retro games, and now my top 5 board games. So hopefully in some order you've seen those, but they're all games that we've played this year and that we've thoroughly enjoyed. So I thought I'd take you through them, and maybe you'll pick them up for yourself. They're all great games, all games that could be played with your family, of all different ages, and hopefully cover a lot of different types of game as well. So there's a lot more out there than just Monopoly and Scrabble, although, you know, lots of people do love those games as well. So let's crack on. It's a bit more difficult for me to capture footage of these games, but some of them I have played on the channel. So I'll try and stick links above, or I will put some images on the screen so you can see them. But yes, yeah, I would just recommend, if you can, get hold of them and give them a play. Anyway, number 5 in the list is Zombie Dice, a very simplistic game I thought I'd start off with. Zombie Dice is just a game of rolling dice with whoever you want to play with, and you can have pretty much as many players as you like. You just essentially are rolling dice. You have these here. I'll pick them up and show you. Just a great handful of dice here. Look, there's loads of them. There's a whole host of them. I'll show you one of them up close. Here we go. You have a red dice for different difficulty levels. So you've got a green dice for nice easy rolling, and essentially what you're trying to do is you use the cup. So, you know, the game nicely comes in the dice cup. So you put your dice into here, however many dice you want to gamble, essentially. You roll them and you see how many zombies you kill, or whether you can escape, or whether indeed you get attacked by the zombies yourself. And then it's just a case of surviving as many rounds as you can to see who can take out the most zombies. And that is pretty much the game. It is nice and simple. It is one you can take on the road with you. It's obviously travel size. It can have lots of players. I don't think there's a limit to how many players you can have, because you can obviously just keep handing around the dice to each other, but just a super simple game that allows you to just have a quick sort of, you know, 5-10 minute bit of fun. And we play Zombie Dice all the time because it is just a quick game to play. I don't think we've ever recorded it, but maybe we'll do one if people want to see us play a quick game of this. I will do a quick recording of it. But yeah, very simple, very cheap. I think like 10 or 15 pounds. It's a Christmas stocking present, right? Maybe a bit more than that, but it is a game that you can see in most places you go that sell board games, that sell, you know, card games and stuff like that. And for me, Zombie Dice is a great little travel game for everyone to play. And who doesn't like, you know, shooting zombies? Come on, that's got to be a good thing to do. So that was number 5. So my number 4 for the games of the year is Subterra. There we go. And this is a very fun family game to play. So essentially it's for 1 to 6 players, so a good number of players, and that's what I tend to look for. Just a personal thing for me is that I'm a family of 6. I have 4 children, obviously my wife, so we struggle when we find that sort of classic 4-player game. So I'm always trying to find games that allow for more people around the table to play, and this does that with 6 players. And essentially you are trapped underground in a cavern, you know, with twists and turns everywhere, and your job is to escape from that cavern before something terrible happens, and that could be a cave-in, it could be all sorts of stuff. But the whole time you're trying to escape, and you play different characters in the game. There is a scout, there's an engineer, there's a rock climber, there's a medic. You can play each one of these characters, so each one of them therefore has an ability that they can use, but you're also being hunted. So there is something in this these caverns that is going to come after you and try and kill you, and yeah, you don't have much in the way to save you, so you're mostly on the run. There is some shooting in it, but very, very minimal, and you're not likely to survive anyway. The monster isn't really meant to be killed. It is meant to kill you, and who knows, there may be more than one. Yeah, a really cool game. The cavern is different every time because the cavern is essentially made up of tiles, so each time you play the game, you're randomly taking tiles from the top of the pile to lay out the map of this cavern you're in, and you may find dead ends, slopes that take you down further into the cavern, rises that allow you to start to climb your way out, all in the hope of trying to find the exit. But yeah, a really cool game. We picked this up at UK Games Expo, I think, year before, and yeah, we've played it a few times now, and it's really good fun, and it is cooperative. So you know, you do have to work together. You can run off on your own if you want and leave the rest of your companions behind. You're probably going to end up in a mess. So the idea is to use your abilities together to help you get through the caverns and find your way out. But yeah, really cool game. I haven't actually recorded this one either. So again, if people would like to see us play this, I'd happily do it because it is a really great game. I don't think it costs much. I'm trying to remember. I think it is in that sort of proper board game pricing though, like £30–40. But yeah, Subterra is definitely one I would recommend, and it's my number 4. Okay, my number 3 pick for games in 2022 is Betrayal at House on the Hill. This is the 2nd edition of the game, I believe. There has just been a release of the 3rd edition. So in December 2022, which is when hopefully you're watching this, I believe there's a 3rd edition of this game. But really, it doesn't matter. If you can pick up a 2nd edition cheaper, because now people are buying the 3rd edition, I would recommend doing that, because frankly, this plays perfectly, and I will see no reason to have to pick up a 3rd edition. I certainly won't be picking up a 3rd edition anytime soon. So what is it? Well, it's a game for 3 to 6 players, and there's a really good reason why it needs 3 people. You can't play it with 2, and that's because of the mechanic in the game, which is the twist, the plot twist that happens throughout the game. So essentially, you are investigating the house on the hill. You know, you and your, well, the game starts off cooperatively. You and your 2 other players, or up to 5 other players, so you can have 6 of you, are investigating this house. You're investigating some strange goings on. You're finding clues, and you're unlocking rooms. Again, a bit like the game before, every time you play this game, the house is different. The house is, you're laying out tiles to cover the 3 floors or the 4 floors in this house. And each room has an event. Each room has something you're trying to investigate, and then at some point in the game that will be determined through as you play, something will happen, and at that point, one of you will become the antagonist of the game, and you will go off and read a certain, there's 2 books in here, one book for the players and one for the antagonist, and they will go off, or the enemy, or whatever you want to call it, but they will go off and read their bit, and they will have a certain thing they want to achieve, and then you guys who are left will have your piece to solve. So it's really cool how it plays, because you've got that, we're all working together around a table, or we're finding, and then based on which room, which clue, and who found it, and at what time, determines who then in that room is then going to become the bad guy, essentially. It plays fantastically. I cannot recommend it enough. Just that twist element, because then the game goes from this almost Cluedo type game to now, we've got problems, and we need to get the hell out of here before we get murdered, or someone does a ritual and summons a demon, or whatever. There's about, with the expansion that comes with this, there are, I believe, over 100 different scenarios that can happen, and we've had all sorts as playing as a family. So yeah, we really enjoy this game. I'm probably not doing a great job of describing it, yeah, I will try and maybe do a let's play of this, because it genuinely is really good. It comes with miniatures, comes with all the bits and pieces, but it plays fantastic, and I cannot recommend it enough for that. The twist. Games with a twist in them are great. When you think you're playing one type of game, and then there's that trigger point and the game changes whilst you're playing it. There aren't many around there that do that well, and this is one that I think is highly recommended. I'd be surprised if not a lot of people haven't heard about this game, because of how good it is. There is expansions for it as well, so you know, you can add even more scenarios to it. But yeah, Betrayal at House on the Hill, highly recommend it. A great game. Right, we're getting down to the last couple. For my number 2, I'm going to pull a game up that me and my son James have played a lot of together. In fact, we've recorded a number of videos and live streams of us playing it. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the big box to show you. And the reason why I don't have the big box is because my set is now fully painted. I was really chuffed that I managed to do this. I painted all of the miniatures in the game. So it's now actually in a case that was, you know, will keep those miniatures safe and have all the components. But I do have one of the expansions to show you, so you know what the game is. This one I haven't painted yet. So this is it. It is called Fantasy Brawl. Yep, Super Fantasy Brawl by Mythic Games. It's an arena fighter in board game form. So you essentially pick a team of 3 characters. Those 3 they're fantastical characters. Hopefully I can show you bits and pieces on the screen whilst I'm talking. All different looks and just really cool looking miniatures for this game. The miniatures are a big part of the game, there's no two ways about it. You don't have to paint them, of course. You can just play with them in their grey colours. You know, they give you discs so you can discern each one from each other and who's on whose side. But essentially it takes place in an arena. You have your 3 characters. You then have a hand of cards, and those cards have all the different moves and abilities that your characters then have. And you go at each other. You know, you're trying to score points by collecting objectives. So those objectives might be to own a certain area of the map, or to kill a certain enemy, or to all be in one location at a certain time, or whatever it might be. But there's plenty of objectives to go after. Or if you're that sort of team, you just want to kill the enemy, you can try and kill the enemy as well. But even if you die, you respawn back into the game. So very video game type mechanics there. You respawn back into the game and you can try and get back to the winning side. But yeah, a really fantastic game. Plays simple, plays really well. You know, a match can be over quite quickly, maybe 20 minutes. Or, you know, if you've got that sort of, you know, you're going on a bit. But there is I think there's a maximum turn you can have, like 5 or 6 turns. You know, there are different types of rule sets out there. There's even tournament play of this stuff, so you can go to exhibitions and stuff and play tournaments. There's even an online edition, so I will try and link that on the screen if I can. If not, I'll put it in the description below to where you can play a digital version of this game. So if you don't want to buy it yet, or you don't want to go and find it somewhere, check out the online version of it. It plays exactly the same. It just doesn't have the physical miniatures. You're just using icons essentially as your miniatures, but the mechanics of the game is identical, so I would definitely check it out. But yeah, a really fun game that we enjoy playing. I say we've played it many times. There's many videos on the website, sorry, on the channel you can check out. But yeah, Super Fantasy Brawl, Mythic Games, my number 2. Right, we're here with number 1. So what is my number 1 board game for 2022? And it couldn't be anything else for me, and some people may know this that know me because I've talked about it a few times, but it is Nemesis by Awakened Realms. This game is a fantastic game that if you can get hold of it, I would recommend you do, because it is a fantastic game. Again, for I believe it can have like 4, 5, 6 players. I'm trying to see if it says on there because I can't remember. We've definitely played it with 4, but I think you can definitely have more. But it is essentially, again, a cooperative game with that twist of as you're playing, one of you might decide to do some nefarious stuff, so that whilst you're being cooperative, you might want to get something you want out of it rather than always helping your fellow teammates. We have recorded this a number of times, so hopefully there's some footage going up on the screen as I talk. But what is this game? Essentially, it is you wake up on a ship. Let's be frank. Think of the movies Alien and Aliens, and this is the board game to fit alongside that kind of universe. It is not you know, it's not directly from that, but you can tell the influences are heavily in there. So yeah, you wake up on a ship and you find on the ship immediately in front of you a dead body. So you come out of your cryostasis, and there is a body on the floor, and you all kind of wake up together. So how many players you are, and there is solo rules for this as well. You can play this on your own if you want, and that's actually really fun to do so. But obviously playing with people would be much better. Yeah, so you wake up, you're disorientated, you don't know what's going on. You start to investigate the ship. Now clearly you want to get home to Earth, and hopefully get home without being, well, something killed that person in the ship, so you want to be able to get home and survive. So when you wake up, you start to investigate. You know, you want to make sure the engines are okay, because if the engines are not okay, you're never going to make it through space. You're not going to be able to hyper jump. You want to make sure no one's tampered with coordinates. You want to get home to Earth. There's no point in you hyperspacing, the engines all being okay and everything on the ship working, and then you hyperspace to a distant planet where you die. So there's loads of jobs to go and check. Think the video game Among Us, right? You know, where they have all these duties they need to go and fulfill. You've got to do that. So you've got to go and make sure the ship's in a good space. Also, try and find out why that person died and investigate. But as you're doing so, and you could all be going off and doing your own jobs, maybe not everyone's doing the job that they said they were going to go and do. Maybe they're lying about the engines being okay because they actually don't want to go back to Earth for some reason, or maybe they don't want to go back to the Earth, so they've set the coordinates to another planet. And a lot of things can be done in secret in this game or in open, and you can choose however you want to play it. And at the same time that all of that's going on, there is also a threat on the ship, and that threat is attracted by noise. So the more noise you make as you go around the ship doing the jobs you're doing, the threat level increases, and the chances of something coming out, and let's be frank, they are xenomorphs for a better word, then yeah, you're going to be in trouble. And these xenomorphs go from larvae right up to, you know, a big one. So you know, and again, I don't want to throw too many spoilers in there because it's hard to talk about this game without spoiling it, but there's all different myriad of creature of like the life cycle of this creature, from its starting stage to its very end stage, and there's multiple of them as well. Again, each of you play a different type of character, so there is a medic, an engineer, a soldier, and so on and so forth, again with each of their abilities and each of their sort of uniqueness. Each room you go into has a function, so it could be the medic bay, it could be an armory, it could be an engine room, it could be you know, an escape pod, it could be all sorts of things that you're trying to find, and then based on that you're then going to make decisions. There's also things that could be happening. You might go into the armory could be on fire, so what are you going to do about that? You then got to go and find a way to maybe put that out, or maybe use it to your advantage. It's a fantastic game, and hopefully I am showing pictures of it on the screen, but I don't know how else to really do it justice, apart from just say, please check it out. I think it's a fantastic game. The guys at Awaken Realms do awesome stuff. The miniatures in it are fantastic. I'm fortunate that my set is painted by the guys at Awaken Realms as part of the Kickstarter process when this game first comes out. But this game is now genuinely available, so you can pick it up. It's got great miniatures in it, great tiles, great way to explore the map. It's different every time again, so no, the game should be the same because the ship is a different layout. Obviously that's a theme throughout some of these games, but that is nice. It does keep the game fresh. It does make it so you don't just waltz your way through the game because you know exactly where the med bay is, you know exactly where all the other bits are, and that sorry, element of trying to do things quietly so you don't attract the monsters is really cool. So yeah, my game of the year is absolutely Nemesis, and I hope you guys check it out. Now, before I let you go, I did have a special sort of, you know, what would be my wild card, you know, given that this is a channel that covers both video games and board games. If I was to make a sort of special wild card selection, it would be the one that's been over my shoulder the entire time throughout this video, and that is Dark Souls, the board game. So if you're a fan of Dark Souls, I can highly recommend the board game itself. Again, as a cooperative game, you can play it solo, much like the video game. You can go it alone and try and take on the Dark Souls universe in board game form, and it works perfectly fine. But we generally like playing it as a family, especially me and my two older boys. We have completed all of the campaigns in the main box and a bunch of the other campaigns as well, including one of the mega bosses. So there is boxes out there that have some of the really big bosses from the game in it, and I would highly recommend it. It's a great RPG. It gets mixed reviews, so when you look it up you might find it gets mixed reviews. I'm telling you that I find it really good. That's my view on it. I like the loot system in it. I like the combat system. It is tough, just like the video game. You are going to die, but yeah, I've fully painted my set as well. Again, you don't have to do that, but the Dark Souls universe is quite grim and dark and miserable anyway, so painting it's a doddle, let me tell you. If you ever want any tips, ask me and I'll tell you how I did mine. I may even put some videos up for you guys to see. I think I've painted pretty much all of it on live stream, and I did it all over a few nights, so it was easy to do. But yeah, the Dark Souls board game would be my sort of, you know, doesn't fit in my top 5, but it's definitely a recommendation if you see it. And I know it will be going cheaper in places because they are just about to release a new core set, but there's nothing wrong with the old one. So if you see the old one going cheap, which is the one there, is that right? Yeah, there. If you see that around, pick it up. You'll enjoy it for sure. Again with family playing that. So that was it. That was my top 5 games. So we had Zombie Dice, very quick, get it out there, play. Subterra, survive the caverns and see if you can work together to get out of there. Betrayal at House of the Hill, bunch of paranormal investigators, but then the twist happens and it's all bets are off. Super Fantasy Brawl, a great arena fighter in board game form. It plays fantastically well. I highly recommend it. A mixture between miniatures and card game. You know, if you like Magic the Gathering and you also like other sort of tournament fighter games, this works really well for that. And then Nemesis, which is absolutely my #1. Love Nemesis, the board game, and yeah, I'm going to be picking up the expansions for that as well. But yeah, that was my list. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the other videos as well. If you did, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, all the things. Hit the subscribe button, all that jazz. I hope you are having a lovely Christmas, and I will see you in the new year. All right, cheers all. Bye bye.